right, I am back with another This Week at Tassi, my weekly news roundup of some of the biggest stories of the week. Some I've covered, some I haven't. I figure there's no reason to not start with what is kind of the biggest story of the week, a few different aspects about one particular game, Assassin's Creed Shadows, which I've taken a break from playing to make this video. I've been playing it a lot. I won't go through my whole review of like the first 35 hours or so, but I really like it. Outside of all the stupid drama around it, I really like it. I wasn't even going to really necessarily play it, like unless it got sky high reviews, but in the end I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. And as it turns out, this is quickly turning into one of my favorite games in the franchise. But in terms of the actual news items, Ubisoft has kept coming out to give more and more player count figures. It was 1 million in 2 days or something, and then they did 2 million. Then just recently they announced 3 million players. Some people are remarking that, oh, well, they're saying players, not sales, so this means like people playing on Ubisoft Plus and whatever. But like, that's also not bad. Like, if people are signing up for Ubisoft Plus to play this or continuing their subscription, that's probably better because Ubisoft would rather have people subscribing to their streaming service long term or subscription service than just buying a one-off copy. So that's probably a good thing. In terms of the overall context here, what we're seeing is essentially the second best launch for an Assassin's Creed game. That is above Origins and Odyssey, and it is below Valhalla. That is not the biggest shock, but Valhalla was a huge hit. It went on to sell 20 million copies, far and away the biggest hit in the franchise. Again, not with some like crazy stellar scores. Essentially, they have like identical 80, 81 Metacritic scores, but people really wanted to play an Assassin's Creed Viking game, and it appears people really want to play an Assassin's Creed Ninja Samurai game. I also think it is worth noting, I think Ubisoft itself has noted that when Valhalla came out, that was in 2020, and you may remember what else happened in 2020, which was the global pandemic that hugely boosted both sales of the game and playtime of a game, and some are calling that like kind of a perfect storm in terms of sales of a particular series like that. That is not really going to be easy to replicate. So, you know, we can't really know what would have happened if either Valhalla didn't launch in a pandemic or Shadows did, but it's at least something to consider. And even if not, I mean, it's the second best selling game that the series has seen, at least currently. I think long term, this game is going to do very well. I think it is one of the biggest releases of the year. Obviously, everyone's waiting for GTA 6. I'll get into that later, but sales-wise, I do think this will do ultimately well, and this sort of controversy around it is drifting away because people are playing it generally and like it, and the people who are complaining about it are either not playing it still or they're shutting up, mostly. That leads to the second point here, which was the all-time legendary ratio that the Assassin's Creed official account made on Elon Musk. It was this very stupid thread about, it started with Grums, if you know who Grums is, I mean, I'm sorry, but he's this right-wing guy who's complaining about woke video games literally 24 hours a day. And, you know, he's the main guy who whips up all these controversies. He said something about how Ubisoft sponsored a Hassan stream, Hassan being a leftist streamer guy, and then Grums called him a terrorist supporter. And then Elon Musk, who follows Grums, chimed in and said that, you know, essentially this is just like immoral to be taking money to promote a bad game. Then Ubisoft came in and said, did the guy who played your Path of Exile 2 account tell you this? This is a reference to when it was proven that Elon Musk was boosting his Path of Exile 2 account by having other people play on it to get him to high levels and get the best gear, while passing all of that off as like him being one of the top gamers in the world. He probably did this for Diablo 4 too, when he was one of the top players there. That was confirmed by DMs. Very embarrassing. Like, if he's even capable of being embarrassed, it was a joke. And then they showed Grums after that, where he said some comeback, and they were like, you know, our game is actually out, unlike your game, this game that he has been allegedly working on for 10 years. the result was a ratio that was like 700,000 likes to Elon's like 20,000, and Elon has like, I don't know, 100 something million followers. Like the entire gaming industry essentially rallied together to boost that tweet to be that popular. This is a big deal. Like people are like, why did you even write a story about this? The fact that an official account is pushing back, not just against like some random player, which, we've seen some clackbacks about, people whining about games and stuff, but this is Elon Musk. He's the richest guy in the world. He's at this point one of the most powerful people in the world. To have an official brand account dive in and, just push back against him, and then, push back against Grumps too. We don't really see this. All of these accounts and companies usually just sort of hedge their bets and are like, we're listening, thank you for your feedback. Like, we're passionate about this, blah, blah, blah. And Shadows did that for a while. But now I just think they're sick of everybody's shit. And I think they got the green light to be like, screw it, say whatever you want, like clap back. And it kind of turned into a marketing moment for them, which I think everyone appreciated. And I think people are just so sick of these guys just complaining endlessly about woke games and all this shit. Like it's gotten so ridiculous, and it's just exhausting. So to see an actual brand account do that is sort of refreshing, and I hope it sort of sparks a trend of like other accounts who are being harassed to just push back against this. This all led to then a really weird situation with Ubisoft that they just they spun out a subsidiary to manage some of their IPs, Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and then Tencent put a 25% stake in that. It's a very weird thing. Like Ubisoft has badly been struggling to the point where like obviously they need some sort of major change here. And like this has nothing to do with Shadow sales or lack thereof. Like this has been in the works for a long time. And the end result of this is somewhat unclear, but it seems like a way to at least protect their IP, even if the core company collapses or something. But it's a significant move. We don't know what this might mean for layoffs. We don't know what this might mean for future productions. But I think the idea is that they're going to keep, using these IPs indefinitely, and also not necessarily just like selling to Microsoft or something like that. So it's a big development, but the results of that are going to be somewhat unclear. I feel like I'm not that smart enough to go into the deep details of this, and I don't even know if all of those are known, but I figured I'd at least mention it because it's like the third biggest Ubisoft story of the week. Moving on from Assassin's Creed, I just wrote about this like an hour ago. The Legend of Zelda live action movie, which you may or may not know or remember exists, has announced its release date, which is essentially 2 years exactly from today, March 26, 2027. This was announced like in 2023 and has been in development to some extent for a while. I don't know. I don't think it's filming, but this has always seemed like a very weird, risky project to me. Zelda is a very, very beloved IP, probably Nintendo's second most beloved IP after Mario. The Super Mario Brothers movie that they made was kind of a no-brainer. Like that was always going to make just a metric ton amount of money. It couldn't be that bad. And, critics were like ho-hum about it, but like that's not really a movie for critics. That's for fans. Huge audience scores, well over $1 billion at the box office. Huge hit. A live-action Zelda movie. Ooh, man, I'm not saying it's like a horrible idea, but it's going to be tough, I think, to make that actually good. It just seems like that would have been something that is better served by a normal animated movie. I think all of Nintendo's properties, for the most part, would be better served by normal animated movies. A Legend of Zelda anime series, like somewhere like Netflix, would have been kind of awesome. That seems like a no-brainer, but a live-action movie, that's going to be something. The movie is going to be directed by Wes Ball. He did the Maze Runner trilogy, which was like the fourth most popular series of the big, young adult trend alongside Twilight and Hunger Games and Divergent. And like, I think it was probably like the fourth or fifth biggest out of those. It was fine. Nothing too crazy there. And then he just did Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which was well received. That was a good movie. And he's really passionate about Zelda. Still, he's not the biggest director. He's not the most experienced. He's only done, 4 movies in over a decade, and 3 of those were Maze Runner movies. So I don't know. I hope it's good, but he's, a bit of an unknown factor here. This is produced by Avi Arad, who has overseen a ton of superhero movies in the past. A lot of them, the original, both of the Spider-Mans that Sony did, and then some X-Men movies. And most recently, he's done all those terrible Sony Spider-Man villain movies. Granted, he's just producing, not directing or writing or something, but he's backed all these movies from Morbius to Craven. I didn't see Madame Web in there, so maybe he avoided that one. But his last video game adaptation he was a part of was Borderlands, and we know how that went. Oh, live action Borderlands, yeah, to continue with the live action train. I don't know, man. I mean, Nintendo's very controlling over its IP, and I doubt that they want anything remotely bad to come of this, but this seems like a big risk, and it feels like it could go poorly. Maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll gross another $1 billion, but we'll see. The other Nintendo story of the week is they did a direct. Probably the most important news to come from that was a Metroid 4 trailer, which showed off gameplay footage to the largest extent so far. It was like a 3-minute trailer. It was a really weird trailer. I don't know if it speaks to the overall quality of the game. It was just a very strange trailer where it's kind of got this odd narration over the top of it describing some of the gameplay systems, and the gameplay systems are like, Samus now has the ability to interact with objects to open doors, and like Samus has psychic powers now to open doors and guide her missiles, and like it was just a very strange presentation, like a way to kind of show off what this game is about. I don't think you really care all that much about how doors are opened. It just, we have Metroidvania type games, but I don't think that was fully on display here. And, people were just excited to see something from the game. They did confirm that it will be out in 2025. It will probably almost certainly be a cross Switch 2 release, given that we all also expect Switch 2 to be out in 2025. That seems like it may be one of the bigger launch titles for it. It's hard to doubt Nintendo. Nintendo does not screw up very often. This game has gone through issues. They essentially had to scrap the original plan for it. I thought it was more recently, but it was 2019. So, geez, getting old. So they have been working on it for a very long time, this new iteration. And since they have not scrapped it again, hopefully it is something Nintendo approves of. It was just a weird trailer. I want to see more from it, and hopefully future trailers are less weird and less focused on door-based gameplay. But I guess we'll see. Finally, speaking of the fall, we have GTA 6. There were some stories written about how other publishers are just like sitting around, like biting their nails, trying to figure out when GTA 6 is actually going to come this fall. Rockstar has repeatedly said that, yes, it really is going to make this fall 2025 release date, and as such, nobody wants to release a game within a mile of that. GTA 6 is, without question, without question, going to be the biggest game of all time. Certainly in terms of scope, but I think it will probably outsell GTA 5 just because of how big the industry has gotten over the last decade. It's just kept growing and growing and growing. So unless it's just some horrific screw up from Rockstar, it is easy to see that. And, I think GTA made like $1 billion in 24 hours or something. I would like triple that for whatever's going to happen with GTA 6. So you don't want to be within like a solid month of that almost. You don't want to be close to it early, because then people would just stop playing your game instantly and play GTA 6. You don't want to be too close after it, as it will just steamroll right over you. That would be even worse, because people may not even look at your game in the first place. So everyone is just sort of waiting around. Big publishers, many of them are not speaking on the record, but even EA was like, yeah, we're holding in pattern to figure out what we're going to do with this, other release, and they didn't like name it, but other games are creating multiple release plans just based on GTA 6. It said that live service games are even trying to not drop new content updates around that time, which for live service games which have a pretty, set seasonal cadence most of the time, that's kind of funny to be like, oh, this season's actually a month long and we're going to start the new one way before GTA 6. I still think it's going to be delayed. I know what Rockstar said. Almost every time you hear a release window for a giant AAA release, it gets pushed. I realize that Rockstar wants to get it out because they've told investors they're going to get it out, and if they don't, that's a big deal, and that will not be great for their stock. I think it could or probably will be pushed to the final quarter of the fiscal year in 2026 because it would still make it in before the end of the fiscal year, so that would still, quote unquote count, but it would give extra time for polish or whatever. I mean, it could give up to 6 months theoretically. That would be very funny because you might have all these games planning to avoid fall, and then surprise, GTA 6 is actually coming in spring. We don't know when this will officially be announced. We are 5 months away from what, fall will technically be. We only have one trailer. We only have that release window. That is pretty much literally all we have from GTA. So it seems likely we're probably going to get another trailer soon, and I would imagine with another trailer we get a release date, but yeah, everyone's kind of just in a holding pattern. In terms of what I'm playing, Assassin's Creed, I'm at 40 hours now. I am still just totally hooked on it. As soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to go back to playing it. Even though, maybe some aspects of it are starting to get repetitive after 40 hours, I'm just really, really enjoying it in a way where I just dropped off of Valhalla, 20 hours ago. And this, I think, is a much better game. You can read my review about it that I published yesterday and let me know what you think. If you're playing it now, let me know what you think in the comments. Usually things focused on Assassin's Creed on YouTube are not going to be terribly well received, but again, now that the game is out, I've seen a pretty significant decrease in all of these, drama farmer type people trying to spin that, 3 million players is bad and the game just tanked Ubisoft into doing this deal. None of this really adds up. So not that it ever did. All right. So that's the week in news here. And yeah, we will look forward to next week and see what else is going to happen. I'll probably have, 80 hours in Assassin's Creed by then. So thank you for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.